Welcome back to Life of Mike. You already guessed it, it's time for another series. I want to thank everybody who's been liking, subscribing, watching the videos. We just hit 590 subscribers. I know that's not a lot, but we're really trying to hit 1,000 by the end of the year so we can keep putting out cool content for you guys. Now, I think it's time for a garage update. Now, if you've been watching the channel since the beginning, we had the Triumph Daytona 675, we had the Buell XB12R, we had the Honda RC51, and the ZX10R, the 2008. All of those bikes have been sold. I know, I never got around to making a series on the 2008 ZX10R. But I've got something that might be interesting too. I just picked up a 2007 ZX10R. Now, the 2007 ZX10R has been kind of the black sheep of the ZX10R family. A lot of people say it's too docile when compared to the Widowmaker, the previous gen. And I had the gen just after this, and it was pretty wild as well. So I wanted to kind of see what all the news was about with this bike, why people didn't like it, what really was contributing to those stories. So I found this bike, I got a killer deal on it. And as you can see, this thing is pretty much completely factory. The only thing that I've done so far was to add that seat cowl over here in the rear. But it's even got the factory fender, and I don't think I'm gonna change anything on this bike. The only flaws with the bike that I could find were, you can see there's a little scratch here on the tank, and then down here on the lower fairing, we've got a little bit of a mark here. These bikes are notorious for sitting very high on the kickstand. You can see it's sitting pretty upright. So it's very common to see scratches on the right side of this bike because it's very likely that it was tipped over at some point. The bar ends look like they have been swapped out. Not a whole lot of scuffs on the mirrors. The seller included an aftermarket, windscreen, a double bubble. I've actually got some cool photos from Kris Kendall Photography, link in the description below. And here's some of the photos he took of the bike as soon as we got it off the truck. So big shout out to him. Hopefully we're gonna get some cool B-roll footage of this bike throughout the series. I bought this bike thinking, it probably doesn't need a whole lot of work. Let's go ahead and show you the gauge cluster. The bike has 12,126 miles on it, and I've put maybe a couple hundred miles on it myself. Now, the other thing that it needed was, I actually brought a battery the day that I purchased the bike because the battery was dead. The bike was stored for a little while. Chain and sprockets don't appear to be too bad, although they are original, so they'll probably need to be replaced after a while. But I had an interesting experience when I first got this bike on the road. I noticed that it felt a little bit jerky. I couldn't figure out what it was. I was hoping it wasn't transmission issues. I've heard that the transmission on this model year was supposed to be really, really bulletproof. And so I felt some jerkiness coming from the front sprocket area. So what I did was I put the bike up on the stand, and I want to show you guys what I found. All right, I've got the bike up on the rear stand, and I want you guys to pay close attention to the sprocket and the rear wheel. When I turn the wheel, look at that. You can see the amount of play here before the sprocket actually starts to move. Let me get another view of that. The sprocket should be moving whenever the wheel is moving. So that delay that I'm feeling whenever I change gears or whenever I take off, so that delay is a direct result of the slop in the hub. Now, the hub is pretty simple. There's a couple of feet coming off the sprocket that then interface with a couple of rubber isolators. And I believe those rubber isolators, when we pull this wheel off, we're probably gonna see that they're pretty torn up. That's what I have my money on. So what I've done is I've already purchased some new rubber isolators. So let's go ahead and get the wheel off before I open this up, and let's see if the isolators are completely destroyed. right out of the gate, you already know we're gonna clean this sprocket all up. We're gonna make it look nice and new. Oh man, these guys are gonna get re-greased. Should be one on the other side as well. There it is. Rotor doesn't look too bad, neither does the sprocket. It is a factory sprocket though, so honestly this really should be changed. Let's go ahead and take a look inside this hub and see what is causing all of this play. Look at that, that's absolutely unsafe. And wow, look at that. The isolators are completely destroyed. This one's not even in the right orientation, it's just kind of floating in there. So my guess was correct, and we're gonna need all 4 new isolators. So I believe I ordered 4, I hope I did, otherwise we're gonna have to wait to fix this, but let's go ahead and open the package and see how many they sent me. All right, once again I got a package from Partzilla. This is not paid promotion, hopefully one day we'll get there, but they are honestly a great resource for OEM parts, and they're usually my first choice when it comes to trying to find those hard to find OEM replacement parts. So here we go. Looks like I did order 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And for anybody who's experiencing a similar issue and they've got too much play in their sprocket, here is the OEM part number for Kawasaki ZX-10R 2007. Comparison of what should be here versus what's actually in the hub right now. And for anyone who might be experiencing some similar symptoms, you'll notice this green rubber dust everywhere. So pretty much these can fall just like that through the hub and then get ejected out through the side of the wheel. So if you see any green dust along your rim, you might want to check your isolators because there's a good chance that they're falling apart and they need to be replaced. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick time lapse. We're gonna clean the whole wheel, clean the sprocket, grease everything up, reinstall the isolators, and we'll get this thing back on the bike. All right, so here's a quick look at the hub with the new rubber isolators installed, and you can see what a difference from what it was before. I'll put a picture right up here to what it looked like, and man, what a difference. The isolators fit perfectly. Make sure you've got it with the little nipples pointing out towards the sprocket. Cleaned up the sprocket just a little bit, so we're gonna get it reinstalled. We're gonna grease the wheel bearings, grease all the little components that fit into the sprocket there, and we'll get this thing mounted right back up. Be doing a 25 Newton meter final torque on the rear caliper mounting bolts. So let's go ahead and get that taken care of. There's one. There's two. Now that we've got the chain mounted, we're gonna go ahead and clean the chain. It is filthy. So as you can see, the sprocket looks a lot cleaner than it was when we first took the wheel off. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean this chain up a bit, and then we'll check to make sure we've got the right amount of tension on the chain, and then we'll torque down the rear axle nut, and this will be a job well done. All right, so as you can see, we've got the chain lubed up now. However, there's a lot of rust spots on this chain. You can tell it's probably original from 2007. So we are gonna have to change the chain and sprocket. But at least now with the hub being fixed, it's rideable until I get a new kit on order. So let's go ahead and torque down the rear axle nut, and we'll lower this thing down and take it for a test ride. All right, so the rear axle is gonna get 108 Newton meters. All right, let's go 108. Not there yet. Almost. There it is. Now I'm not aligned with a hole right now for our cotter pin, so I'm going to use a breaker bar to turn it over just a tiny bit more. That'll do it. Let's go down. Grab a hammer and just tap her on down. So if I take a little bit of cardboard here, should be able to at least bend it a little bit, like so. There we go. Just enough. This thing's ready to go. The only thing really left to do is wash it and ride it. So I think I might give it a quick wash, and then we'll take this thing for a ride. All right, so rather than a wash, I ended up just doing a spot detail real quick. And as you can see, it's shined up real nice. Can't wait to get this thing out on the road. We're gonna do a little GoPro footage for you. But before we go riding, something I forgot you should never forget are to tighten down these little adjustment nuts here. So had I ridden off as they were, you can see they're loose. So there's nothing to keep this thing from backing out under vibration. So both of these sides, I'm gonna tighten down real quick. Then I'm gonna gear up and we're gonna go for a ride. All right, let's take this thing for a ride. We're gonna go ahead and meet JustTheOtherDave. He's at a local Wawa, and we're gonna cruise around the Orlando area. So let's get this thing warmed up and head on out. It is hot. Speaking of scenic route, we got JustTheOtherDave here. We're gonna try to take the bikes through downtown Orlando, a few other spots. What do you think?
I think we're going back to the road over there next to the airport and get some curves.
Sounds good. Dave's always about the curves.
Yeah, maybe see some roads too.
Kendall made it.
All right, I just got back from the ride, and there you have it. This bike is running flawlessly. It's back to shifting buttery smooth. That hub was a major problem, and it was very dangerous that I was riding it that way. I mean, I would think that the previous owner might have known and thought it might have been something more serious, and that's why I got this thing for such a great deal. But thankfully, that was a very inexpensive fix, very easy to do. Anyone can accomplish that in probably an hour or less. So if you have any questions about the hub isolator removal or installation, be sure to shoot me a message or comment below. Thanks again for checking out the channel, and be on the lookout for more videos with this 2007 ZX10R. Watch it, buddy.